everybody? Hope this video finds you well. Today we're going to talk about the most widely used drug in the US and really in the world even, and that was being caffeine. And now there are a couple different sources of caffeine. The biggest ones are typically coffee, tea, and chocolate, occurring naturally, of course. So we're going to actually cover beverage form of caffeine because I think that's the most prevalent, and people purposefully take caffeine in beverage form to receive a desired effect. So in this video, I'll be talking about effects, the mechanism of caffeine, statistics surrounding caffeine, and my experience with caffeine. And I'll include some timestamps in the description box below. If you want to fast forward, feel free, get the most out of this video. So yeah, just jumping right into it. I think to set some parameters, when I consider something to be a large quantity of caffeine, that's over 50 grams. Some chocolate has 40, slightly less than 50 grams, but I would consider 50 grams and up to be a significant source of caffeine. Also, a little caveat with this. So the effects of caffeine when you're consuming it are increased alertness and excitability. And I think that's what everybody's trying to get, right? When they feel a little dip in energy, they want to take something to wake them up, get them through their day. Maybe if you're using it for a workout purpose, like I typically do, you want to feel a little bit more focused in the gym, and you want to go in and kill it. Some other effects include increased thermogenesis, or your body's core temperature raising. And then on the more negative side, increased anxiety and irritability if you take too much. Dehydration, because caffeine can have a diuretic property, is a methylxanthine. I didn't take OChem, so don't hold me too highly on this explanation, but basically a methyl group is a carbon-containing molecule, and then a xanthine is a derivative of a purine base, which contains carbon and nitrogen. And so basically this methylxanthine is found in natural things like tea, coffee, chocolate, like we said before. So essentially, caffeine is an antagonist to adenosine receptors, meaning it blocks the purpose or desired effect of what your body needs adenosine receptors to do. So essentially, you're tricking your body into feeling more awake by taking caffeine, because adenosine regulates restfulness, or your sense of tired, pretty much. So caffeine is blocking that, making you feel like you're more awake, even though you're not actually more rested, of course. You can't substitute sleep for caffeine, duh. Also, caffeine can promote the release of GABA, or the happiness hormone, dopamine, which is like reward, you've probably heard of dopamine, and then norepinephrine, which is a catecholamine that can pretty much translate to excitability. I would say that's the basic way to put it. So now that we have all that science stuff out of the way, let's get into some statistics about caffeine. So, in a study called Beverage Caffeine Intake in the United States, pretty straightforward title, I think, 37,602 people participated in a 7-day diary intake, or record of their food intake, and it was found that 85% of the 37,602 people consumed large quantities of caffeine for that desired effect. That's a lot. I think when you think about 85% of our country taking a drug to receive a desired effect, it raises a lot of questions in my mind. For example, why is it okay? This is getting kind of deep, right? But why do we find something like caffeine to be okay? And why do we find something like marijuana, also a naturally occurring plant, to not be okay? Kind of a weird question that I'm not going to get too far into, but you know, if you think about it, they're both natural. They both produce a desired effect, and one is just highly stigmatized compared to the other. I don't have the answers, but it's interesting to me. Getting into some caffeine content of different beverages that you probably have seen or had before. 8-ounce cup of Folgers coffee, the stuff that's like instant in the coffee. It's not great coffee at all. Please don't actually use Folgers coffee. But it's 57 milligrams of caffeine, very, very low. A 12-ounce Pike Place roast from Starbucks has 235 milligrams of caffeine, which is pretty high for 12 ounces of fluid. The Monster 0-calorie energies that you see a lot in the fitness sphere are like 140 approximately, 135 to 140. And then I had one more that I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, Red Bull. I think a lot of people say like, oh, Red Bull, it's my go-to caffeine. It actually only has 111 milligrams of caffeine per 12 ounces, and it has like a ton of sugar. I want to say like 40 grams of sugar. So definitely not the most bang for your buck in terms of caffeine content. In that study that I mentioned earlier, the average intake was 165 milligrams. So that's about 2 cups of coffee a day. Pretty standard, I'd say. And then the 90th percentile was 380 milligrams of caffeine. So that meant 10% of that 37,602 was consuming a lot of caffeine. And there's the recommendation that if you stay under 400 milligrams of caffeine, you're safe. You're not going to receive any adverse health effects or, big problems that could come. However, you could become dependent on caffeine if you consume that much caffeine for that long of a period. Oh my god. The great outdoors. So you could become caffeine dependent if you're taking high doses of caffeine every day. And that's pretty much what happened to me. So getting into a little bit of what my experience with caffeine was, I started taking caffeine for pre-workout energy, right? If you know me, you know I used to work out at ungodly early times in the day, like 5 a.m., 4 a.m. Don't ask me why. I thought it was cool. So in order to feel like I had an extra boost of energy because I was just chronically under resting, I would take caffeine. And I started out with like the C4, really standard pre-workout. I think it has like 175 milligrams of caffeine per serving. And I just felt great. Like my workouts improved instantly, or so I thought. That really wasn't a lasting effect because eventually 175 milligrams didn't have the same effect, and I needed to increase my dose by trying different types of pre-workouts. I even got into a pre-workout that had 400 milligrams of caffeine per serving, which was just ridiculously high and completely unnecessary. My stomach did not agree with it, so it was honestly flushing money down the toilet. Things to keep in mind with pre-workouts: caffeine is not the only thing you should consider. While it does have an ergogenic or performance-enhancing effect, it's not the most important even ingredient in a pre-workout. Some of the other ingredients I would look for in pre-workouts, which I've talked about this in other videos, are creatine, beta-alanine, citrulline malate, and caffeine. So essentially what I learned in some of my exercise physiology classes is that 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight is an appropriate amount of caffeine for a person. So for me, let's say I weigh about 94 kilograms right now. So the lower end, 3 times 94 is 282 milligrams of caffeine. And then that 6 range, 94 times 6 is 564, which is very high. I know I personally wouldn't be able to handle that. I would definitely start out on the lower end of that spectrum if you're looking to get into caffeine or try it for the first time. But like I said, I developed a dependency on caffeine. I felt like whenever I worked out, I had to have a pre-workout or my workout was just going to be lackluster. So at a certain point, about 16 days ago, I decided, I'm done with caffeine for a while. And I did this because I didn't want to feel dependent on a substance to perform and do activities that I enjoy. And I would encourage, if you feel like this is the circumstance that you're under with your work, your workouts, try to get off of caffeine and substitute it with something else. Could be water, could be tea, decaf coffee even. But the feeling of almost, knowing that I'm not bound to a substance is it's very freeing, I guess, for lack of a better word that's coming to my mind. So definitely give it a try. At first, I will say, I felt like my workouts were a little lackluster. I felt a little tired throughout the day, but I don't feel that way anymore, and it's just been 16 days. Will I go back on caffeine? Yeah, I'll enjoy it. If I have a particularly challenging workout, take a scoop of pre-workout or have a coffee. But I don't think it's everything it's cracked up to be. I hope you guys got a lot out of this video. If you want to see anything like this, anything more like this where I explain a common substance that you might use or a workout topic, just let me know. Drop that in the comments. If you have friends that are big on caffeine or coffee, share this video with them. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.